So what we know so far is that an oil tanker has been targeted off the coast of Oman Tuesday night in what seems to be a drone attack, causing limited damage. And this very much fits the pattern that we've seen in recent years. Especially the Gulf of Oman, but also the Arabian Sea is an area going back to since mid 2019, and that we're seeing a lot of attacks against different types of shipping, including oil tankers. It's understandable that that suspicion is going to fall on Iran. They've always relied on a degree of plausible deniability for these types of attacks, and that's likely to be the case again. But it very much fits the pattern that we saw back in mid 2019 onwards, when the US really sort of ramped up its sanctions pressure on Iran. So if we look at the last few years, consistently, whenever the US has increased sanctions on Iran, Iran has then responded with attacks against energy infrastructure or attacks against shipping in the region, and so that is the most likely explanation this time as well. It's worth sort of stressing that we're kind of seeing two risks in parallel here, and both are rising. One is a return to what we saw in mid 2019 onward in terms of kind of fairly frequent attacks against energy infrastructure, against shipping, but still at a manageable level. And then in parallel with that, there is obviously the concern of a much broader regional confrontation between the United States and Iran. And there are several reasons why that risk is rising now. As you said, one is that Iran is under a lot of pressure at home because of the protests. Nuclear talks have stalled again. And we've seen the ceasefire in Yemen and as well. So all of these factors coming together very much raises the risk that we'll go beyond what we've seen in recent years, and that we could face a more serious confrontation with much broader implications for the global economy and for global energy markets. It's a fair point, and I think from Qatar's point of view, it's obviously bad timing that the World Cup is taking place, amid heightened regional tensions. For now, as you suggest, that there's no sort of specific reason to suspect that Qatar in any way is likely to be vulnerable in this scenario. It's worth pointing out, that Qatar has largely been shielded from these types of sort of negative consequences from the regional tensions. We've seen, Saudi and Emirati energy infrastructure be attacked. We've seen Saudi and Emirati-owned tankers being targeted, but Qatar has been largely shielded. They have taken slightly more of a neutral stance in the region. They have the shared gas field with Iran, and so relations are less tense for that region. But it's something that obviously is going to be of concern as the world's attention is squarely on Qatar over the coming weeks and months.